So this webinar is indeed in the context of a few more webinars and physical meetings in the context of the Erasmus Plus project Circle. For those that are new here, the project is about an exchange between Romania and Flanders Limburg to develop walking tours, but with a very specific attention for the local stories. Stories that can be connected to the walking tours. So the participants have had already an exchange in August here in Belgium, in which some aspects of what you need to develop the walking tour were presented, going from making a tour, how to make a safe tour, how to integrate heritage into it, methods about storytelling to capture the different kind of stories that we can integrate in the tours. So step by step, participants and the organizers are developing these tours, and in between this and 2 years, the results will be ready. So as a first webinar, we will focus on heritage, the patrimonium of local communities, regional communities, and how you can integrate this into your work and of developing the tool. For those that were present in August, I was talking about what is heritage, and today we will go a step further and we will see how you can use heritage as a social connection, how to connect people to each other by putting heritage into the middle of your talk discussion. What I presented, where I started with in August, the different kinds of images you have, the optical illusions. I'm not going to ask you again which kind of animal you see on the left top. It was or a duck or a rabbit. Which circle on the right top is the biggest? Those in the middle, those with bigger circles around, or the one with smaller circles. The circles are even to each other, and below you see or an old lady or a young lady. Just to add a new one into this, what you see here, some people will say, I see a couple, an old couple, or you can say, I see some Mexican guys also on the screen. If you look very close to it, normally you see the leaves of the flower, they are turning a little bit, but I don't know if the effect is coming through online webinars. Only to say and only to show you that heritage is very difficult to define, and everyone is having another meaning on what is heritage. And that's also the big difference with, for example, history. You try to understand, you try to describe the past as it was. It's also very difficult to do, but heritage can have another kind of meaning for everyone. And that's very important to take with you into the development of walking tours, and certainly the points where you want to stop, that different kind of stories can be told on this. And as very shortly, what I also presented in August, those that are new, it's something new also, the content perhaps, but for those that have followed in August, we repeat a little bit what we understand on heritage. Heritage, sometimes people say, oh, this old stuff from the past, and this is a misunderstanding because it can be also very young heritage. Things from yesterday can be already become heritage today or tomorrow. think about the very quick evolution on mobile phones. If you have a mobile phone today, tomorrow it can be outdated and becomes step-by-step heritage. If you ask young people to use an old telephone, they don't know how it works. And it's not that long ago that people were using the classic phones that were at home and that everyone has his own phone at home. That's already the past, and a lot of objects, phones are already heritage. So it's not about how old something is, it's all about what kind of meaning we give to it. And that's also in the definition that we get objects from past generations, we keep it today, we maintain them today, and we give it to our future generations because we think it's important. So we are more choosing and bridging what is coming from the past to the present to the future. And then we have two sides. You have the tangible heritage, things that you can touch, and the intangible, things logically that you cannot touch, but what is in your head or in your community as a tradition, a practice, a living expression. For example, dance or the traditional clothes. When we go a little bit further on this tangible, you can make also there categories. On the one hand, the immovable heritage, things that you cannot move. Think about buildings, historical sites, churches. You cannot move it, or it is not meant to move. Movable, you can move it from one place to another. Think about paintings, sculptures, archives, tools, clothes, and so on. Most of the things you find in museums or archives. And then a specific category is the underwater heritage, but also very important, everything that you can find on or below the sea level. For you, also very important is the intangible heritage, because we will work in this project a lot with this kind of heritage. The intangible heritage, those that you cannot touch, but that are present into your family, in your organization, in your community. Like, for example, the oral traditions, the stories that are told, even the language, you can bring it under the category of oral traditions, performing arts, what I was referring to, the traditional music, dance and theater, social practices, how to make the traditional clothes, for example, can be under this category. Craftsmanship, all kind of traditional wisdom and practices. But these things are, in the best case, they are written down, but quite a lot of them are passed from one generation to another generation. On different levels, from local to international, they are working on this intangible heritage as a way of trying to capture all the knowledge and traditions that are present. Why is it important to talk about heritage and to keep heritage? On the one hand, it's referring to our identity. It's going to our roots of our identity. We can connect to our family, our community, region, nation. It gives you what they say, a sense of belonging. You recognize something, you have something to tell about this, but also other people are interested or feel connected to this heritage in the very broad sense of the way, of the definition. And it can also bring you advantages, resources for the future as an economic driver. For example, heritage tourism is very interesting, for example, for jobs and local economies. I think also in this project, we will look for how we can attract tourists to come and to do the walking tours. It's a source for education, inspiration, and social cohesion. And of course, everyone is responsible also for their own heritage. Um, it is not only a local authority or a national authority that is responsible or has to take responsibility to keep and maintain the heritage. Everyone has a certain kind of responsibility to maintain it and to give it to future generations. And one of the first question is how we work with heritage and how we present heritage. And one idea on heritage and how we present it is that, and I use the image of a church, a cathedral, certainly what is in the church and the cathedral, we consider heritage as something that is um, a holy place. We want to keep it, but we keep it behind uh, walls or glasses. You cannot touch it. You can only see it, and on you can only see it on certain hours of the day. So we keep it really a little bit closed, because it's very important. We are scared that we are losing the heritage when everyone can come into a museum, an archive, or a church and will touch it, will take it away. So we are very afraid of presenting heritage. That's one way of looking to heritage. Another way, and it is a step further than the church, that's image of a prison. We put everything in a room, in a building, very well secured. You cannot enter. We even don't show it. We only if we have certain kind of conditions, we will show it. But we keep it as a prisoner into their own room, and we are very scared of that the heritage will go out, so that nobody can uh, take it away, and we keep it as it is. A totally different kind of idea on working with heritage is like in a kitchen, that you have some cooks that are taking some aspects of heritage. You can take a tradition, you can take an object, you can take an archive, a picture, and with all these ingredients, you start to work and you make your own story about it. Not only you, but also other people, other cooks are going to work with these ingredients and make their own story. They share their own story and they come at a certain moment to a certain kind of common story. So that's a totally different way. You don't put it anymore into a prison or in a church. You take it out and you let people work on it. Why I'm choosing for the idea of cooks is that sometimes we have the impression that only professionals can work with heritage. People that are not, they didn't have perhaps an educational program in heritage care, we still keep it out a little bit. It's only for professionals. That's why I use this image of professional cooks that are working with heritage. Then another view on it is that we say heritage is a foreign country. It's like you travel to another country, you don't understand a thing about it. You can only try to integrate yourself a little bit into that other country to understand the mentality, the traditions, and so on. But it's still something that is far away from you. The same idea you can use for heritage, that you say, okay, we live in the present, that the things that we had from our past generations, it's from the past. So it's like you make a time travel and you try to understand it, but you are still not working or understanding it very well. But this is already a step further, that you, by your own, you don't need to be a professional to understand. You can make a time travel to see how it was and how is the meaning today. And then this one is going in the direction of making a social connection, that you use heritage and the objects, the traditions, and the archives, photos, and so on, but you bring it back into the community. And together, professionals, public, volunteers, interested people, but also people that don't, perhaps at first sight, don't have an interest in heritage, you try to involve them, engage them into heritage work. And you use heritage as a way of connecting people to each other. And I think this, for our project, can be interesting to see how we can, as much as possible, involve the public, the community members in working with heritage and how we can present heritage to other people. So it's more a theater that you are developing than keeping it into a prison or a cathedral. That everyone has his own contribution on maintaining heritage and working with heritage. And that's why I use also this image sometimes, an image of a dog, a man who is walking with a dog, and those who are having a dog, I think it happened more than one time, that people are not speaking to each other directly, but they are talking through the dog to each other. How old is the dog? What is the name of the dog? Oh, I also have at home a dog, but another kind of dog. And they start to talk about a discussion with each other by or through a dog. It's not what here is written, a person-to-person talk, but a person to the object, to the person. This very often happens with heritage also. If you define it as a social object, it has the potential, this object, this heritage, to be a social object, to start a discussion, a talk between people, and to connect people to each other. But a social object is one that connects the people who create, own, use, critic, or consume it. So it's a transaction that you make. For example, if you have an old picture, an old photo with people on it in a certain age, people are starting to discuss who are the persons on the photo, on the picture, in what time it was, and you create a discussion, and at the end, people are talking to each other about families that they knew, how they are connected to the other family, and so on. But the same is happening with a lot of other kind of objects. So that's the main idea also in our project, that it's not the professional, the traditional institute that gives you the stories, that is explaining what kind of heritage you have to use, but that we are working together, collaborating, co-creating our own stories, of course, by using and working together with institutes, but also with community members, outsiders, people that are living a long time in a community, sometimes a short time, but how we can connect them and how we can um, have a more broad uh, use of heritage. So we go from a me to a we. I will not uh, say too much about it, but it's the idea is that the traditional idea on heritage is that you as a person are going to visit, for example, a museum, and you see what is presented. You have some explanation on what is presented. We want to go more on in the direction of stage 5, that you can co-create, that you are not only consuming what is shown, but that you bring your own story, your own heritage into that institute or on the walking tour. What I will do now, I will make it more practical and show you some examples. I will change the sharing. It's because we are in a European project. I will show you some good practices that were brought together by the European group. It's called Cultural Heritage in Action, and these are some examples of good practices on how you can activate heritage into your community. And I was searching for some examples that are perhaps also useful for the project. So this initiative was coming from the European Union Europe for Culture program, and it's called Cultural Heritage in Action. And you will find some good practices in different countries in Europe. I think in total around 45 good practices are described, but I was only choosing for some of them. And one of the first examples is the project, what was called Museum in the Village. The main idea, it's a project that was developed in Portugal, was what you can see there, fighting elderly loneliness through cultural heritage. So they brought together, they saw what were the needs of the community, that more people stay alone at home, they didn't have too much support, and they tried to bring together people who were staying alone from the age of 65 plus, and they were challenged to talk about heritage, but also the heritage that they can find at home. What kind of objects, photos, memories you have about the community, about your own family, and how it can be connected to each other, so that you go out from the museum to the community and try to combine things that were brought together by the elderly people. Also important is that they have a new social connection to each other, but also to younger people. Also there, you can find for each of the projects, you can find some movies, but also some documents about um, why they did it, how they did it. I think we can find some inspirations also here in this kind of projects. It's a project from Portugal. Then one from Italy, and also interesting, I think, for our walking tour. They called it the Five Senses Open Air Museum. Traditionally, if you look to heritage and museums, we have the idea, again, what I told you, we go to a museum, we go to a heritage site to see something and to read the explanation, what you see. So this one was also working with the community, and they used the five senses. What you can see, what you can smell, what you can hear, what you can feel. This is another way of working with heritage, so that all is integrated into a tour, a walking tour. Perhaps also for us, it can be interesting to have this into our project, to use the different kind of senses. Not only seeing and listening, but also to experience something, to taste something. And again, it all the time is the same structure. It's a bit of movies, explanations, and the documents that are related to this to this project. One from Spain, an example, cultural rebirth for rural repopulation. I think certainly also in the Romanian context, the phenomenon of migration, certainly in the rural area. Also, Spain is confronted with this at some places. And most of the times you have an economical answer to this. We have to bring industry, companies, and so on to the region, and people will stay. Here they worked with culture as a possible solution to keep people in that area or to attract people to that area. Also here, perhaps inspiration for certainly our Romanian partners who are working in rural areas. And they worked with traditional craftsmanship and trying to engage also young people in maintaining these traditional things. From Austria, and it's more about an archive, community-driven archives. The idea was that everyone has archives at home. Sometimes people say it's not important, these kind of archives that we have from our family or from ourselves. But if you combine all these private, personal, family, organizational archives, you get a different kind of image of that community. That you don't need only to maintain the official state archives or local authority archives, but what you have at home is also very interesting to have and to connect people to each other. The same kind of project in Alpine areas, cultural community mapping, also working with, in Italy, working on remote communities, but with a lot of heritage, not only in the institutes, but at home, a lot of heritage, and how you can involve people to tell their story, to show their heritage, or even to bring it to an institute so that it can be maintained for a longer period. Then a very nice project from Greece. It was called 100 Buildings, 100 Stories. Again, here it's about the involvement, the engagement of the community and community members. Of course, for sure, there will be professionals that can tell the whole story of a building, the technical, historical history of that building. But what they try to do is that community members tell a story about the building. What did they experience in that building, around that building? Is there a connection to their family? Is there a connection to an organization? And so on. So that not only one professional or uh, maximum two, three, four, five professionals are telling the history of the building, but that community members have the opportunity to tell the story about one building. And if you have the 100 stories together, you can start to make a nice walking tour with for people that are visiting with different kind of stories and more personal stories. That's the idea behind it. Also in the Netherlands, you have a very nice project, also archiving for an inclusive city. All the time it's the same idea. What we have in our house, what we have in our organization. It's also important to keep and to maintain. And by involving, engaging the people, you come to a more inclusive city. That's the main idea um, behind most of the practices I've shown you in other European countries. Of course, also here in Belgium, we have uh, a lot of expertise on this kind of concept. For sure, we will put some of them also in the manual. But because of we are in a European project, I showed you some of the European practices. But in Belgium, I will only show you some examples on very personal stories. And one of the most um, touching, emotionally touching projects in Belgium is made by a museum called Caserne d'Ossin. In the past, um, during the World War II, a lot of people, mainly Jewish people, were transported from that place to Germany. But because of a good archivist there, we have the files of people that were transported, and you see some of the pictures of them because they were registering everything and they were making photos of the people that were transported to Germany, to the camps. Um, the museum now is looking for people, and these are not professional people. Everyone can participate in it. They are looking for people that want to tell the story of one person. How they do the selection, or how you are connected to one person. You have to fill in a paper in which you say, okay, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm that age. Um, I was born on, in my case, April 16. I'm interested into history and heritage. So certain, you have certain criteria you have to fill in that document, and then they try to make a matching between you and somebody who was transported 80 years ago. It's not totally the same, but there is a certain kind of connection, a match between you and the person, so that it becomes more personal. You are more personally involved into it. And there are some examples written for people. I will take one. For example, this lady. You get a total description of it. For example, she was born on March 15. If somebody also has his birthday on March 15, you have already a first match. If you are a woman, if you live in the neighborhood of, for example, Mechelen or Keerbergen. You see, they make a certain kind of connection that you feel more personally involved. And everyone can go to the museum and make a recording of that story of the lady or the man that was transported. And every year at your birthday, you are having a message from that museum. You still remember this person. So that's a very, let's say, personal involvement that you get. A very nice project was developed by a heritage group in a region in Flanders, and it's called Our Neighborhood Story. And it's on the very local level, even on the street level, that they bring together people about the history of their own community. So what you also saw in other European projects is on the very local level, so that they ask people, do you know stories about people that were living here on the street? Which kind of shops were there? What kind of tradition, perhaps, specific for the street or the quartier was there? And how we can bring it together. And they do it with different kinds of workshops that they bring together people. And at the end, they have a result on this. And these are the different communities or places that were working on it. And for everyone, you can find a publication on what they have brought together on stories and so on. This is one of the publications they made, very because with pictures that were coming from persons, families, organizations, and some specific stories about that community. So, in my opinion, it's also interesting to see how they did it and to make the connection to our own project, because we are also looking for stories that we can connect to our walking tours. All of this is, let's say, connected to the very local history of that community. And here in Flanders, we work on what we call the Canon of Flanders, and it's the idea of making a guideline for people what they have to know about the history of Flanders, which are the milestones in the history of Flanders. It's not only on the Flemish level. I think we have the opportunity, certainly from the Partners for Limburg, to create some very local canons, guidelines on what people have to know about, for example, the city of Tessenderlo. What do they have to know about it? And integrating this into the walking tours. Because this can be very new for Flanders. In the Netherlands is already existing. They have their own local canons about history, but for Flanders it can be new, something new that we can add as a result of the project. So these are some examples. We will also distribute it in our manual, and hopefully it can give you a lot of inspiration. Because at this moment I'm working also as an archivist in the city of Zaventem, and we did an action last year in 2024 about World War II. And also there, and I come back to that idea of theater, we involved the Academy of Word and Arts into it. We gave them the stories of people that were um, into the resistance uh, during World War II, and we asked them to make a monologue um, about that person, and also some actors from that academy brought the story of some people into the resistance during World War II. Here you see one of the people who is presenting the story, the life story of the lady that is here in the cemetery. She was into the resistance, but it was brought on a very emotional way because people were getting into the life, really into the life of that person. So this is also a way of presenting, bringing heritage, bringing history to the public. It doesn't always have to be a professional guide that brings you the story. So, ending I do with this picture, cultural heritage is all around us. It is to say that everything has the potential to become heritage. We only have to give a meaning to it, to work with it, to collaborate with it, and then we can have a very nice future also if we have a respect for our heritage and pass it to the next generation so that they also can work with these remains from the past.